And my doctor said, you probably have a better chance of starting a family if you're not stressed out.
Oh,
So my husband said, just quit. And I was like, I've never not worked. I've been working since I was 13. I've
yeah.
never not worked. And I I did quit and we did get pregnant and I was sitting around just bored out of my mind and I discovered a agent teaching a class, I guess on, how to invest and maybe flip properties or what have you. And I
Mhm.
just decided to go sit in the class and see what she had to say. She was very good, very, very talented. But I didn't want to work with her. I wanted to do it myself.
Oh, wow.
I really loved what she said and I'm just I like the control,
Mhm.
right? So I got my license and said, I'm just going to learn this myself.
Okay, we are live. Welcome, Audrey, to the How Do You Do That podcast. Thanks so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're in this home because of Audrey, and so Audrey was Kelly and I's realtor, and she helped us find this beautiful spot in Austin after we toured a bunch of different homes during a crazy time.
Yes, it was a very crazy time in the market. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty. I think we had put in. This was the fourth offer
Wow.
at that time, and it was just we were so sad because
I'm
we
sure.
loved this home, and then on that fourth offer we didn't get it, and then I know you had talked about putting in a backup offer,
Yeah.
and so we put in the backup offer. A couple days later, I think it was like 6 or so days later, you said the first offer had fallen through and that we were next up in line, and Kelly and I just remember jumping around our apartment. We were just so excited.
Yes, that's a great strategy for a market when it's really crazy. People are running on fear and stress and emotions and feeling like they have to put in offers that maybe they haven't had time to think through because things are going so quickly
Mhm.
that we see a lot of people back out in those kind of markets. And if you have already established yourself in a backup position, it's the best place to be because then you don't have to renegotiate. You're already there
Mhm.
and it's done.
Yeah, that was a great strategy, and we're so thankful that you had the knowledge and expertise to guide us in that direction so that we could have a home in Austin.
Well, you've done a great job. I love coming back. It's one of my favorite things to come back after they've buyers moved in and made it their own and
Mhm.
seeing everybody so happy.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling than how it was when we first came through with all your belongings and
Mhm.
all the warmth and love.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just thinking about how we met you through Eric Whittington, and Eric Whittington a month or two ago was sitting right where you are. He's, I think, episode 5 or so. And then I recorded an episode with Kenny, and he was the last episode. And Kenny also uses you as his realtor. So you are someone I think that is just so bright, and you're just such a joy and a pleasure to work
Oh,
with, to
thank you.
where, like, when I had been looking for realtors for a couple months, because we had been looking like 8 to 6 months out before we actually purchased the house. And I never really connected with a realtor. So it was really on a whim. I was just catching up with Eric, and Eric had said, I was sharing with him I was looking for a home, and he's like, "Oh, you should use Audrey.
Oh my
We've
goodness.
recommended her to 5 different couples, and they've gone on to recommend her." And I was like, "Yeah, been connected with any of these realtors before. Like, send me your info." And I think the after the first conversation we had, I was like, "Kelly, I think we found our realtor and someone we can work with." Um, and-
Eric, he grew up with a woman in Dallas, and she is the one who started. Her name's Nikki. She lives in my neighborhood, and
Mhm.
she was my first contact in this group that ended up being. I told her I need to do a flow chart for you, Nikki, just so you can see how all of your referrals have just. I think it's up to 20 people and friends and family through all of y'all, and it's just been every single person I've met in this group.
Mhm.
It's just been a joy.
Yeah, and I think it just is a big testament to who you are, and so I'm so excited to just
Thanks.
dig into your journey and just give folks a glimpse of um, your story and then how you got to where you are. So I'd love to hear more about, like, where were you born?
Okay.
Did you start out in Texas? Are you?
I am. I'm a native Texan. I think 5 generations on my
Wow.
dad's side.
Okay.
Yeah. I was born in Dallas. I grew up in Irving, which is right outside of Dallas. I guess around my 30s, I moved to Austin. So
Okay.
I've been in Austin since about 1996.
1996. Oh, wow. So you are basically an original in Austin then.
No, they would say 70s, 80s.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
There aren't very many of those. Most people we meet, it's like you're lucky if they've been here for more than 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like pretty rare.
I'm starting to be an old timer, aren't I?
No, not at all.
Well, I went to school and studied. My bachelor's is in marketing, and so I was in advertising in Dallas
Mhm.
at a really big agency that had a large account, and they said they were going to put it in review, which usually means we're all going to lose our job.
Oh,
When an account goes into review, it usually
mhm.
means they're going to select another agency.
I see.
And I had met my uh, now husband at this agency, and we were old enough to know that we were going to be together forever, even though we had only been together for a few months. We knew, and we thought, well, where do we want to do the next chapter of our life?
Mhm.
And so I applied at an Austin ad agency, GSD&M, which is probably it is the biggest agency in Austin. And they had a lot of really great Fortune 500 accounts, and I got really lucky and worked on Southwest Airlines there for a long, long time. It was a fun job. And
Oh, wow. You're probably happy you're not working with Southwest right now. They're
I
dealing with
know,
all kinds of marketing issues.
it broke my heart to hear about the tragedies over the holidays because they really are close to our heart.
Mm.
We worked with the founder, Herb Kelleher, who's
Did you really?
no longer with us.
Oh,
But yeah,
wow.
it was a wonderful time to be in advertising and a wonderful brand.
Mm.
Really, really talk about someone who's living their passion and their purpose, and that's what he was.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was stuck in Chicago for 36 hours on my way to
Oh,
Boston, but
oh my
I've
goodness.
always have admired Southwest and the culture that Herb Keller set out. So, what was that like working? Did you like get to meet him
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. We would go to his board meetings, and he's everything that everybody says. They'll be laughing and drinking and smoking.
uh-huh.
He had a hearty laugh and a love of life, and he just loved his employees, and he was just a joy, a real
Mm,
joy.
that's phenomenal. So you started your career out in marketing and advertisement.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. How long did you do that for?
Probably about 14 years.
14 years?
Uh-huh. That sounds well, no, that's not right. I finished college and I was in college for a while because I started off as a psychology major.
Hey, me too.
You did?
Yeah.
It's funny because we both love people and we
hmm
both like to hear the kind of like the backstory behind people. I
Yeah.
love that. And so it took me a little bit longer to get my degree because I switched over to business. I graduated in 90, and then I think I left GSD&M in 2002.
Oh, so you were
So
there for a while.
yeah, well, not the whole time, but I was in marketing and advertising from 90
Got it.
till 2002.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you enjoy about your career in marketing, and then what made you want to transition to your next career opportunity?
I enjoyed working with the creatives, which is also how I met my husband. He is a creative that was assigned to one of my campaigns in Dallas when we were still in Dallas. And I just enjoyed the creative process. The strategy behind a corporation's challenge. We had to develop, okay, what's the strategy? What's the end goal?
hmm
And then we had to create a brief, what they call a strategy brief, to give to the creatives so they then know how to create around that. What is the goal that they're trying to achieve?
hmm
And we had so much fun, especially with Southwest, because they have a great sense of humor. So we could use humor in the advertising. We weren't all serious, and
Right.
it was a lighthearted travel, supposed to be a fun subject. So
Did you have a favorite campaign that you had done that
yep,
you did with them?
yep. It was called Must Be Football Season,
Okay.
and they were a huge sponsor of the NFL, a huge sponsor, and they decided they're going to take their time that they bought the media that they bought in the football program and use it for fun instead of to push a fare or a specific flight. They were just going to do it for the fans
hmm
only. And it was just a hilarious campaign of people in everyday life but they get the passion of the football season and they kind of lose their mind. And it was so much fun. I think this is what I was told. I don't know if it's true, but I heard later that the campaign was entered or accepted into the Smithsonian's advertising
Oh,
communication.
wow.
I don't know if that's true, but it was so much fun. A bride and groom were dancing. It just is an there's probably 12 commercials throughout the seasons, but one of my favorites was this bride and groom were dancing in this gorgeous hall in
Mhm.
New York, and all the families there, and it's very high to do. And the groomsmen get the passion of the football season and take the red, huge punch bowl and dump it over the bride.
Oh my God.
So it was that kind of silly stuff, and it was just so much fun to shoot it. And we went all over the United States and shot different locations. It was really fun.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like you really enjoyed that career path and you got to exercise your creative muscles and get to do that in a really unique way. Like I don't know if many people in advertising get to do that kind of creative work.
Yeah, I didn't develop the spots. That would be
Mhm.
my husband's a creative side. He did do some work for Southwest. After I left the agency, then he stayed and he went onto that account. So I think between the two of us, there's like 18 years of us working on Southwest Airlines. It's
Holy
kind of funny.
cow.
Yeah.
Wow, so you basically were employed by them. I bet you feel like
One
that.
of my dearest friends was my client, and we're still friends today. She lives in Dallas. But I developed a strategy, and then the creatives would come up with the commercials
I
and things
see.
like that. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I can't
fantastic.
take credit for that great idea, but it was really fun.
Yeah. So when did you make the transition to real estate?
So I want to say um, when 9/11 happened,
Mhm.
we, being an airline account, pulled all of our advertising off. Nobody was advertising, obviously. It was a horrible time. Um, and I was asked to move over to another account and do some research, marketing research, and it wasn't the same.
I see.
And I was feeling a little burnout. We were trying to start a family, and you travel a lot, and advertising hours are really long,
Mhm.
and there is a lot of stress. And my doctor said you probably have a better chance of starting a family if you're not stressed out.
Oh,
So my husband said, just quit. And I was like, I've never not worked. I've been working since I was 13. I've
yeah.
never not worked. And I I did quit, and we did get pregnant, and I was sitting around just bored out of my mind, and I discovered a agent teaching a class, I guess, on, how to invest and maybe flip properties or what have you. And I
Mhm.
just decided to go sit in the class and see what she had to say. She was very good, very, very talented. But I didn't want to work with her. I wanted to do it myself.
Oh, wow.
I really loved what she said, and I'm just I like the control,
Mhm.
right? So I got my license and said, I'm just going to learn this myself. And I had a really good client base because of all the people I worked with at GSD&M. So they
Mhm.
were real helpful in helping me build my business organically, and that's how it happened.
Wow. So, before I dig into that part, I guess I'm curious about like the decision-making process behind, you've had this long tenured career at, working with Southwest in advertisement. Was it a hard decision to just stop and just focus on family? Like what things were you considering whenever you were doing that?
I was thinking about just kind of getting out of the rat race because it was very stressful. I think I wanted to have a little bit more control of my time,
Mhm.
something you really don't have in that industry. And I felt like marketing and client relations, those are the things that I'd been doing for so many years,
Mhm.
are just a natural in real estate. And I could make my own hours. I could take my child with me if I needed to.
Mhm.
And we joke around that he's probably seen 1,000 homes in his lifetime.
Oh, wow.
I said, you should be an architect. But he also has the same entrepreneur spirit that I have. And I think that rubbed off on him too.
Yeah, so how long was it between when you stopped between your marketing role and then when you started in real estate?
So I left GSD&M, I believe in 2002.
Okay.
I got my license in 2003.
Oh, so it was a pretty short gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really like, I couldn't sit at home very long and just, and then I had my son in 2004, and at that time I was already licensed. And I remember one of my clients calling me when I was still in the hospital. And I was like scheduling my appointment with her, and she goes, "Where are you?" And when I told her, she's no, she hung up. But I was self-employed, so I figured you have to, you have to jump
Yeah.
when they say jump. But
Oh, wow.
it took me a few years to learn boundaries
Mm,
and setting your time for yourself and your family and not being on call all the time.
right. So when you first started in real estate, did you immediately just you got your license and then you started working for yourself, or did you spend any time with a firm before that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
started with Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
They actually had a relationship with a design firm
Mhm.
that GSD&M used. I was real particular about um, how we marketed ourselves because I came from that background of perception and high quality advertising. And I thought some of the real estate stuff I saw out there it just seemed a little cheesier than what I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
used to.
Hmm.
And when they presented their marketing materials at Coldwell Banker, they were very, very high class. And I found out that they had been working with the same design firm that GSD&M used for some things. And
Oh,
so that was
wow.
the only reason I went with them, is because I just thought they were very professional,
Okay.
and I learned a lot with them.
So when you first started with them, what did that look like? Did they give you leads, or what did, what was your role like with them?
It's tough. And I have to say, I had the luxury of being able to do it on my timeline because we had another income.
Mm.
And I feel for people who are in sales and they don't have that luxury, because it takes a while to build a business, and you probably want to find a place that'll give you a lot of leads. Um, I don't recall, I don't think I got a lot of leads there. I
Okay.
just did it basically through my network of friends and coworkers and my background.
Got it. So at what point did you start to go and work for yourself rather than working through that group?
I think it was 2008, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go look at my license.
Hmm.
Um,
So you,
since I had Nicholas, we were at home. I was working from home full time,
Mhm.
so I didn't need a desk at Coldwell Banker. And I did my taxes one year, and it said that I paid them 30,000
Oh,
that year.
wow.
And I said, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I should go on my own. And I did, and I love it. I really do love it. I went back to another firm a few years later, or 5 years ago probably, and it was fine, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of realtors in Austin. I see articles all the time where there's like thousands of realtor, but it's a small percentage that actually do deals and
I
actually
saw
complete
that.
sales, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there is a low barrier
Hmm.
to entry. I want to say it's maybe 4 or 5 classes. And I feel like it should be harder
Hmm.
because you're really representing a very huge investment for people.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should require more training, more education. When the market's doing really, really well, as we have been doing for a long time in Austin, even pre-COVID, we were a great market. Um, People tend to get their license because they see opportunity.
Mhm.
So the licenses went way up as the sales and the market got crazy. But you're right, it's a small percentage that do a big chunk of that.
How do you stand out in a market like that? Like, I know that you have a background in advertisement, branding, perception, just building trust with customers in general. But for those who are, maybe considering doing this on their own, what makes like a competitive realtor? What are some things that you like to do?
I think for me, the most important thing was a love of learning and and going beyond what as to renew your license, you're required to take a certain amount of classes every few years.
Mm.
But I recommend that an agent go way beyond that. The more you know, the more your clients will know, and the better position that they will be in a situation where they're investing their money. And I love to learn. So that's been super fun. And I also am kind of a perfectionist, and I don't want to go into a situation where I'm leaving them vulnerable or me vulnerable.
Got it.
So if you're just doing it for the money and you just want to do as little as possible to get by, I don't think it's the business. I don't think it's the right business for you. But if you're really passionate about helping, I kind of feel like a financial advisor more than a realtor, because I'm looking at this from the point of view of what's this going to do for you long term, and should you have to move or lose your job in a certain amount of years, are you going to be upside down? I look at all of that, and I let my clients get emotional and excited and thrilled about the property, and then I'm kind of the voice of reason,
Mhm.
and then we marry them together.
Yeah, that's one thing that Kelly and I really appreciate about you. I'm naturally a very like analytical, math-driven person, and so when we first met and I had shared that with you, I remember just getting like random emails from you. Hey John, take a look at this for this, real estate market report, and here's the outlook on this, and I've crunched some numbers for you on that, and I was like, can you refine the data on, this area? I want to see that, and you could do all of that, right? Like you brought not just the personal relational side and your expertise, but you were also able to adapt to, and tailor the way that you worked with, our needs and what we needed to, feel like we were making a responsible
Yeah.
decision. And that's probably driven from your love of learning. Cause I don't know if actually, I know for a fact that not all realtors have an analytical mindset. Some of them don't operate the same way that you do, at least from what I had experienced when talking to different realtors.
Yeah. We have amazing realtors in this market, and I have to say that I get a lot of my information from Eric Bramlett. I think his agent may have even been the broker on your house, one
Oh,
of his
okay.
agents. I think Bramlett may have been the listing. Chris Jacob and Spyglass Realty. I follow, these are local realtors who provide a lot of data to us, to realtors. They could be thinking like, I'm not going to share that with them. I'm going to
Mhm.
be competitive and keep all. It's a really wonderful market to be an agent in Austin, because there is a lot of talent and a lot of willingness to share. You were a very unique client. Not all of them are as educated as you or as passionate about that data.
Mhm.
And therefore it's even more critical that they have somebody that is, right?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you loved all the numbers and the nitty gritty, and that was great.
Yeah, so for those that, I think you bring up a great point, right? For those that are looking to buy a home and are vetting realtors, what are like, I don't know, your top three sort of criterias for a realtor? Like, what are some things that you would really want people to like get to know about the realtor before, signing and saying, hey, like, you're my designated person?
I would say if it were me and I wasn't in this industry, and knowing what I know now, I would go to the Texas Real Estate Commission website. You can search a license and you can see their education, and you can see, are they taking just the minimum every 2 years that they need to renew their license, or are they taking, multiple classes and getting designations and things like that to make them more knowledgeable. I would certainly check their references, and I would ask to see the listings, their past listings. And some people say you want to look at their list to sales price ratio. Did they list it for 200,000 and did it sell for 150,000?
I
You
see.
want to see that, and that can tell a story. But also, I think you want to look at how did they present the property.
Mm.
That is a big stickler for me, coming from a marketing background. I pay for staging out of pocket.
Mhm.
Even if it's an unfurnished house, I will pay to furnish it, because I know in the end, if I present this property at its highest and best, my client's going to do the very best
Mhm.
financially. And as you know, there's some scary stuff out there. I
Yeah.
mean, some people have made websites on bad real estate photos just to laugh at. And it's not funny if you're the seller,
Yeah.
right? It's funny for a joke, but it's not funny for the seller. So that's what I would look at. How did they take it seriously? How did they present the product that they were given
Hmm.
and entrusted with selling?
Yeah, that's right. So I forget that you do both sides. You do the
Mhm.
selling and the buying side. Is there a different set of criteria that you could use if you're a first-time home buyer, for example, looking at partnering with the realtor to help you guide you through the process?
Oh, I would just say
Okay.
trust, and get a really interview several, and then ask to speak to some of their clients.
Mm,
Yeah, you want to really feel comfortable that the person that's going in and negotiating on your behalf is really qualified, and are they? Some people like to use Teams, and that's okay. But I like to just I don't want to turn it over to anybody else. I
mm,
just want to be the point for all,
mm.
and I don't take too much business because I don't want to be stretched thin. If I can't take care of them, then I shouldn't be working with them, right?
Right.
So, but I think it's just a really good feeling, and referrals are important.
Yeah. Given your advertising background, do you feel like or I guess, how do you feel like your previous experience has equipped you as a realtor? I know that you had mentioned that a lot of it's relationship and branding, but are there other things that you feel like have translated from your previous career?
For sure, especially on the listing side. If I'm listing a property, I look at it from the consumer's point of view. I look at everything from the consumer's point of view. How's this property going to show online, which is where most people see it for the first time?
Hmm.
Um, how is my reputation going to help or hurt this property? How I present myself, whether it's at an open house or online, right? All those things, we make judgments, first time impressions when we see a property based on who is the realtor holding the house open and what do they know about it. I think that comes from being in advertising. You just tend to look at everything from the end consumer's point of view.
Hmm.
And I think it's helpful. I really do.
Yeah. So I guess, aside from looking at it from an end consumer's perspective and understanding your customer, what else does it take to be like a successful realtor?
I'll tell you, the psychology
Hmm.
minor is huge, because you can imagine it can be a divorce. It can be someone calling you because maybe somebody passed away.
Mm.
They can be selling because they need the money for health care in their family or college. It can, even if it's a happy reason to move, it's still a huge change. Saying goodbye to a home that you've been in for a long time and you have a lot of memories, and you're choosing to move on at your own. It's your own prerogative, but still, it's a sad,
Yeah.
right? So you have to go into it with a bit of some psychology, right? And you're sometimes a counselor,
Yeah.
sometimes a therapist, and it's I'll never this. I had this one gentleman. His wife had dementia, and so he couldn't care for her anymore. And they'd been in their house for a long time, and he had to sell the house to fund her health care.
Wow.
So not only was he losing his house, but he was not able to move into the facility where she was. And he was so overwhelmed. And we were standing on his driveway, and I could just see that he was just so sad.
Yeah.
And I was taking yoga teacher training at the same time. And and so I taught him these breathing methods that we learned, and we just stood out in his driveway and took deep breaths.
Oh,
And
wow.
I gave him a big hug, and I thought, this is the most important part of my job.
Yeah.
This right here is way more important than anything.
Wow. It sounds like you found a lot of like meaning and purpose in your role, aside from just, you know, this transaction of like
Yeah.
buying and selling a home. It sounds like it's really like fulfilling for
Yeah.
you and helping people.
Yeah. I'm proud to say I talk a lot of clients out of buying,
Oh, really?
because I mean, it's a great way to build wealth if you can hold on to your house, right? And they'll call and they'll say, we're ready to sell and buy another house. And, well, why don't you look at maybe holding on to it and
Mm,
making it a rental? Or it's nice to be able to diversify in the stock market and real estate, right?
right.
Especially now, we know that. Um, and I think that that's the daughter of a single mom who grew up with a very tight financial budget.
Mm,
And I'm looking at the future for my clients. What's going to set you up to be able to do all the things you want to do?
yeah.
And and I think that gives him a sense of comfort. Well, she's not in it just for the money. She's talking me out of this.
Yeah, no, that's really that was a big factor for me, which is like as I was just talking to you, and I've heard from other people, right? Like they're realtors, you're incentivized to, help people complete the transaction.
Sure.
Kelly and I never got the sense that um, you were out for your own gain. It always had felt like you had our best interests at heart. And that just made us so comfortable working with you. And I don't think that is for everyone. And so I think you set a very high bar for what
So,
a realtor should be. And I hope that people who are listening to this know that this is the kind of realtor that you could work with. And like, this
um,
is the kind of realtor that, the qualities in a realtor that you should expect, not just like, I don't think to me, it's this should be the standard, right? Like it
oh,
shouldn't be the opposite.
that's it. I think that's on my website. That's so funny that you said that. I think it's one of the first lines, and that is my goal is to raise clients' expectations of realtors
Mhm.
because I think they don't know what they don't know, right? And especially if you've had a house, maybe you've had a house for 20 years, so you haven't been in the business of doing a real estate transaction in a long time, so you may not know what to expect.
Mm.
And I hope that people know that they can expect more. I don't think it helps our industry that we're paid a commission of the sales price.
Yeah,
I think it would be great if we could, just get paid an hourly rate or whatever.
right.
But I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon. But I think it does make people suspicious. Like, well, why should I pay this? You're not doing anything differently than if the house was half that price, what have you.
Mm.
I don't know. It's been debated by people way smarter than me on this topic, but
Yeah,
we have an obligation.
yeah, and yeah, that's something that I just really admire about you and how it's not just about the sales price; it's about the customer interest first. So I guess for those that haven't bought a home yet, or maybe you're considering buying a home, what's the first time home buyer experience like, and what can someone expect working with a realtor like you?
Oh, I imagine it's probably pretty overwhelming, even before the market became so competitive. It's better now to be a buyer for sure in Austin.
Mm.
We've had a little normalization finally. Um, but if they can find a realtor who's been doing this a while and has a good team of referrals, a really good lender is so important part of the transaction.
Can you share more about the lender
Yes,
relationship and the
yes.
realtor?
I've had lenders, especially in a multiple offer. Say you're the listing agent on the other end, and you get 5 offers, and maybe one of them is from an online mortgage company you've never heard of,
Mm.
and another one is from a lender in New York. The lender letter is from New York, and then the other one is from a local Austin lender that you recognize and have worked with before. The seller wants to know it's going to close on time, and we have situations where they don't close on time, and that's very stressful for everyone. When you have a local lender that you've worked with in the past and they have an on time record, and you can pick up the phone and call them and have a conversation with them, it's not a 800 number or what have you. That makes your offer a lot more competitive,
Mhm.
right? And it makes the situation a lot less stressful for everyone. They also have various rates and fees. So I tell my clients to get 3 lender approvals and compare the rates and fees because they can be very, very different.
Right.
Um, and then they'll also a really good lender will pick up the phone and call the listing agent and say, "Hey, this buyer that made an offer on your property is pre-qualified. I've checked their credit. They're approved. We're good to go. I've seen all of their," and that just makes all the difference, right?
Hmm.
Makes them feel like, okay, this is going to be an easy transaction with this guy or girl.
Yeah. So the lender is important, I guess. How soon should somebody start working with the realtor before they purchase, and what are some other things that they would want to consider before making this decision?
I think they want to look at all of the costs of home ownership. It's not just the loan, the principal and the interest. It's going to be your maintenance and your taxes and your insurance and your commute. I mean, are you someone who still has to go into an office 5 days a week? Austin is a bear when it
Yeah.
comes to traffic, and that's a quality of life issue, right? So think about all the things, and then I tell people to make kind of a wants. I want this in my next house. Maybe a must-haves. I must have this in my next house, and and just know that some things you think you might really, really want, they usually go out the window as soon as you walk in that house and go, I love it. So that gives us the opportunity to bring you back to your original list.
Mm.
Was this critical or not critical? And just make sure that, like I said, let them be emotional and have fun. And then we just kind of keep everybody's feet on the ground to make sure they're getting exactly what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some great tips. I guess you mentioned earlier that the Austin market is cooling down. So it sounds like it's not as hot. I've been seeing and reading more about how there seems to be more supply, and maybe with higher interest rates, the monthly cost is a bit higher as
Mhm.
well for most people that are applying for a mortgage. So it sounds like there's maybe more supply, but I'd love to get your take on what you're seeing in the market here.
Well, right now, I think Chris Jacobs, I was listening to him yesterday. I think he said we have about a 5 month supply.
Okay.
I thought we were closer to 4, but he's way more up on the data. And not very long ago, we had a less than 1 month supply. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
a huge difference,
Mhm.
right? And the interest rates did have a lot to do with it. But the economist with the National Association of Realtors is predicting we're going to be around 5% this
Mhm.
year. And we were already seeing it come down from, I think it was a high of 7.5% interest, and we're around 6 now.
Okay.
So it's not high. It seems high if you're a younger generation when you're comparing it to 3% and what we've seen in the past.
Right.
But in the whole scheme of, of home buying, and we've had rates in the 18% in the 80s, I think it was. But it's not. It's still a very good interest rate, and I think come spring we're going to find out if we're coming back to a little bit more of a competitive market. We'll know more in March to see what
Okay.
happens. Right now, they're saying this little window of January when the market's slow is a great time to buy because there's not a lot of buyers in the market to compete with, and there's still a lot of inventory.
I see. So you've been in the Austin market for a while now, I guess. Share for those that, maybe that don't live in Texas, how has the Austin market evolved? Um, where do you see it going?
If I had a crystal ball,
Yeah, if you had a crystal ball.
I would say I could not have picked a better market to decide to be a realtor. I mean, what luck was that? It's just such a great town. It's beautiful. It's one of the reasons we wanted to move here is because there's so much, greenery and trails and an outdoor world
And pollen.
it's the cedars. You can hear it in my voice. You can hear the cedar.
Yeah, like Ellie and I have the same issue. We've been struggling with all this. Like, we're all drugged up on Zyrtec and
Yes.
Claritin.
This is the only bad thing about Austin is the cedar. Yeah, it used to be called the allergy capital of the world. We probably have more allergists per capita than any city. I think right now, knock on wood, we still have the jobs.
Mhm.
Um, we still have the industry, and um, I think there's still, even though we're having our growing pains, there's still this beautiful effort to keep it local and
Mm.
to support that maker artist craft. And I think Austin's going to be wonderful for a long time.
Yeah, so you
I
just,
mean, the traffic is not fun, and I hope that we'll one day have some nice high speed transportation.
mm,
But this new mayor and new city council, I think they say that they're very, very committed to working on housing prices because it's not affordable for a lot of people, and I hope we can change that.
yeah. Are there things about real estate and the real estate industry that people maybe don't understand or misunderstand?
I think a lot of people may not understand the how easy it is to get a license,
Okay.
right? And may not, like we talked about earlier, may not know what they should expect.
Mhm.
Um, I think a lot of people think they can do it themselves, and they'll save X percentage if they do it themselves. And what I've seen is they don't know what they left on the table. They may think they saved a certain percentage doing it on their own, but they also don't know what they could have had if they'd marketed the property and to its highest and best and to the most broadest audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary thing to think. You don't want to think that you left money on the table, right?
Right.
Um,
That, and then there's also there are a lot of apps now too, where like Zillow,
mm-hmm.
I don't know, what is it, the door one?
Open Door.
Open Door, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All those are, and they're called iBuyer. Some of these iBuyer programs where they purchase a property usually from a distressed seller, and then they turn around and maybe make a few updates and turn around and try to make a profit. And they did a lot of that during COVID, and now some of them are getting out of the business because now they're not able to sell it at the higher price. And so there's some extra inventory out there from iBuyers, and I've been reading that I think Zillow got rid of their iBuyer program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. The Open Door house across the street has been
On the market
on the market for, I think, since we bought the home a year ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I keep seeing people go in and out, but their prices dropped, I think, probably close to 130,000 over the last year. Like they just keep, I mean, they were shooting way over the moon with the pricing initially, but they've had to hold on to it for so long that the price is slowly like dropping down to where it's a little more reasonable.
It's not this, it's that you get what you pay for, because that's not necessarily true, but it is a hard industry to explain to someone who doesn't know how real estate works. And it just goes back to that expectation of, I think we need to do better as realtors. We need to raise the bar, make it a little bit more difficult to get a license. And I think that we need to be sure that how we present somebody's property it couldn't be any better, that they're not going to feel like they left any money on the table.
Right.
It's an interesting industry. And I think when you get apps involved, people think that means do it yourself.
Uh-huh.
It's hard to know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have seen several situations where somebody left a lot of money on the table and they don't know it. It's what you don't know.
Yeah.
So they're probably telling all their friends, I did it myself. I saved all this money. And maybe they did, but they may be comparing it to a less desirable option and not know that they can expect more from the realtor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked a lot about the real estate industry. One thing that you're doing and that really excites me is entrepreneurship, and something that I've always loved. Can you talk more about just your journey as an entrepreneur? How's it been? What are the challenges? What are the upsides? I know you talked about flexibility, but I'd love for you to share more about that.
I love flexibility. So my dad was self-employed. He had a barbecue restaurant.
He had a barbecue restaurant?
In Waco, Texas.
No way. Which one? Is it still there?
No, he was Pit Barbecue.
Okay. Oh, wow.
My mom's self-employed. She's a therapist.
Okay.
My sister's self-employed. My grandmother was an artist and very good at it and self-employed. I think it's in our genes. Mm-hmm. And I know Nicholas will be too, my son. And now my husband is. He's left advertising, corporate advertising, and is a freelancer.
Okay.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. I think you do need to really be committed to self-education, very much so, pursuing more and more. It makes you so much better at what you do, and you have so much more to offer. Knowledge is power, right?
Right.
You have to have some discipline, right? But you also need to have a balance. If you're working all the time, you're not very good to yourself or your family.
Well, what would you say has been the most challenging part of entrepreneurship for you, or running your own business?
Learning about healthcare, because I don't have corporate healthcare. You have to get on marketplace, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and let me just tell you, this is a perfect example. There are people out there who know this stuff, and let them do it for you, right?
Yeah.
Healthcare brokers. That was a challenge, going from having a 401k and having your healthcare taken care of, to learning all that stuff and investing for yourself and making sure that you were looking to the future to retire. And yeah, I think it's been very easy for the most part. But again, I want to say I had the luxury of being able to do it with another income.
I
I
see.
didn't have to come out of the gate making a certain amount of money. I was able to build my business organically, and that takes the pressure off. And I'm sure I'm less salesy
Uh-huh.
or less desperate than I would be if I had to put the food on the table for the whole family, you know?
Yeah, so you had a really strong sort of financial foundation
Yeah.
before entrepreneurship, which I think,
Helps a lot.
yeah, that's really important, right? Like, because
Very so.
you're taking on all this risk as an entrepreneur, but if you're able to not jump at the most immediate thing, and I wonder if, like, have you had to work with hard customers and
Oh,
clients, or are you I guess, can you share more about working with hard customers? Like, do you take them on, or
yeah.
how do you navigate that?
Well, so when Brian was still working, my husband was still working, you felt like you had a flexibility with who you wanted to work with.
Mm.
And then we kind of reversed roles. And when I was doing well in real estate, I told him to quit.
Oh, nice.
So then I became the main provider for about 6 years. And
Uh-huh.
that was really stressful. And you were probably less likely to turn away that difficult client,
Mhm.
maybe. But now I feel like I'm in a comfortable place, and you know right away if you're a people person, if it's going to be a good relationship,
Right.
and if not, you just gently refer them to another realtor.
Please take this person.
Someone you don't like. No, I'm kidding. There's personalities out there for everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
There'll
right.
be someone out there that's a better fit, right?
Mm.
And that's okay. It's not but I don't, like I said, I've just been so lucky. My clients are so loving and sweet, and they seem to refer people just like them. And y'all have just been this huge blessing
Yeah.
of wonderful people and in Eric's neighborhood where I live, I have probably now 7 or 8 clients, and a lot of them have little kids.
Right.
And I go walk every day, and I see them at the park and all their kids, and it just makes me so happy.
That's so fun. It's like you're recruiting for your neighborhood. You're just like, this is on the market. Who's my favorite people? Would you like to buy this house and live next to me?
They invite me to their babies' like first birthday parties, and I'm the oldest person there. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm like the grandparent.
Yeah. That's so fun because, like, you're in such a crucial, like, a big moment for a lot of people's lives,
Yeah,
and that the fact that, it doesn't just end at the transaction, but it continues beyond. And you're
yeah,
here sitting in the home that you helped us buy on this podcast. Like, I love that, for you, it's really more than just the transaction. Like, it's this ongoing relationship with the people that you help.
yeah. And your generation, and you and your friends. I mean, some of those are buying in my neighborhood.
Mhm.
Their forever home,
Oh,
their first
wow.
home, and they're just so smart with their investments and their money, and they're clear where they want to be. And then Nikki's like, okay, I'm going to live here for a long time. I want Eric here. I grew up with Eric. I want him to live here. And then Eric invites this Toby, and then now they're raising their children with all the people they grew up
That's
with.
amazing.
It really is. It's just so fantastic how smart they are with their finances and their future goals. And I love this idea about your podcast, because it's another thing about your generation. And something I've been telling our son is, do what you love,
Yeah.
right? The money will come. Do what you love.
Right.
Find that place where the world needs something and you have it to give, and it'll cross over and you'll have a purpose.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you hit on so many important factors, right? Do what you love, but the world needs it, right? Like, you
Right.
can't do what you love and the world doesn't need it. You can if it's like a hobby and something you love, but you probably shouldn't expect to get paid on it if there's not a need
Right.
in the world. But also, if the world needs it, right? Like, you need to have the skills to solve that. And
Right.
um, you have to develop the key skill sets to be able to contribute and give in that and serve in that way.
Yeah.
So I guess looking back on your career, is there anything you would do differently? Anything that you would change on your journey or your path?
You know what? I don't think so. When I got out of college, my first job was at a film production company,
Mhm.
and I loved it. And then from there, I went to advertising. And I did work at two agencies that I was not crazy about at all. But other than that, I feel really lucky.
Mhm.
Yeah, that I've made good choices and I've met so many wonderful people. And that's to me, that's what fills my cup
Uh-huh.
is the connection and the relationships, and real estate's a great place to meet new people.
Right.
Every transaction's different. Everybody's needs and life story is different. And it's about connection. That's
Yeah.
what life is all about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Do you see yourself in real estate for the foreseeable future, or do you think you'll try another industry or do anything else?
I think I'll do this as long as I can. I don't want to retire from it. I
Mhm.
don't want to retire. I think I would be
You get bored
bored.
again?
I get bored again. But I did get my yoga certification,
Oh, awesome.
but it's not something I want to do full time. I like to do a little bit of this, a little bit of
Uh-huh.
that, keeps it all real and new. And so I teach classes mostly for my girlfriends and probably for the neighbors,
Oh, really?
for the clients. I'll open it up to my clients in the neighborhood just for fun. Yeah.
Realtor slash yoga
Yoga.
instructor.
We all need some yoga, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. So, um, I guess you've given a lot of great advice for folks who are looking at the real estate industry, thinking about a career in real estate. I guess, what other advice would you give, or is there advice that you wish you would have had earlier on in your career?
I think I would have wanted to, and this is what I tell my son is invest early, like you guys. You and Kelly are investing in real estate at a young age, and I think that's so smart. And if you can, I would say hang on to it. And one of my builder clients told me, you got to take some risks.
Mm.
And so we were leaving our first house to buy our second house, and he talked me into not selling the first house. And in doing so, it's given us a little more mailbox money,
Mhm.
a little more freedom, a little to do the things we want. And I think that just treat it like it's part of your whole financial future.
Yeah.
It's your home for sure. It's lovely and it's got to feel good, but it is also a big investment that can work for you.
Yeah, right, right, right. So for those that are thinking about making this investment and planning for it, how how should they reach you if they want to work with you, or like what's
Oh,
the best way for them to contact you?
my website is audreypudder.com. Probably all over Google.
Yeah.
Just Google me, and you can call me anytime.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Audrey, so much for helping Kelly and I find our little spot in Austin. And we've loved it and getting to have a home where we can just host people. And the feeling of coming back to a home that's yours is, I think, really special. Every time we travel and we come back and we're like on our way back, we're like, we can't wait to be
I
home.
love
Like,
that.
yeah, it's such a great feeling. And I'm just so thankful that Eric could introduce us to you. And we'll continue to sing your praises. And
Thank
I'm
you.
just so excited to share your story. And just thank you for making time to come onto the podcast, but also just raising the standard for realtors. And I really love what you do,
Thank you.
and really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
All
I
right.
appreciate you too.
Thank you.